Puppies in danger, a woman obsessed with fur, dogs networking all over London. All this can only mean one thing. We're comparing 101 Dalmatians on this episode of Retro vs. Remake.
Hey, I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of Retro vs. Remake. The podcast where we discuss films and their remakes. So join us as we explore the question, should this remake exist? Today's episode is 101 Dalmatians. So the first film was made in 1961, starring Rod Taylor, Kate Bauer, Betty Lou Gerson, Frederick Warlock, and J. Pat O'Malley. Directed by Wolfgang Reithman, Hamilton Luske, and Clyde Geronimi. Written by Bill Peet, and music by George Burns. Now, the director, the writer, and the composer, they've all worked in a lot of Disney films over the years. Like, they've worked on Pinocchio, Peter Pan, Jungle Book, Aristocats, which we actually see a little bit in the remake. And then we have the 101 Dalmatians from 1996. Starring Glenn Close, Jeff Daniels, Jolie Richardson, Hugh Laurie, and Mark Williams. Directed by Stephen Herrick. Some of the things he's made, some of my favorite movies: Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, and The Mighty Ducks. And it was written by John Hughes. He did many things, many movies, but most importantly, he wrote the first 3 Home Alone movies, which will come very heavy in our discussion, I feel. And music by Michael Kamen. Now, I know him from back in the day when Metallica toured with a symphony, and he was the director of that. So, Michael Kamen. Both of these movies are based on Dudi Smith's 1956 novel, The 101 Dalmatians. Okay, Reggie, what is your first experience with either film?
I believe the first film, just like standard, that thing where like the substitute teacher's hungover, brings a big TV into a room, rolls it in, and there's a movie playing. I definitely saw this as a young kid in school. That was my first experience with the original film. And honestly, because of my age, also the remake definitely was something that I either saw in like school as some kind of like school event or, out and about with friends. So it's been a while. I'll put it that way. It's been a while since I've seen either film.
Me, I have actually never seen either film until this podcast. I don't know, somehow 101 Dalmatians, both the original and the remake, just fell off my radar. I did not see either film. I knew about both of them, obviously. I mean, they're staples in the Disney archive, but I don't know, I just never saw it, and then I just got older, and then it never appealed to me. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to see the dog movie. I get it. 101 Dalmatians. There's a woman named Cruella de Vil who wants to make coats out of them. I thought I knew all I needed to know. So
that's still really all you need to know. I'm surprised you didn't catch that at a younger age, but
no.
Hey, these things happen.
Yeah, my biggest exposure to 101 Dalmatians, I think, was in Kingdom Hearts, when you had to find the Dalmatians everywhere. Wow. Other than that, didn't know anything about them, didn't know their names or anything. I only knew Cruella de Vil. That was it. Well, we got some different films here. Well, slightly different films. But before we do that, let's go over the synopsis. We begin with bachelors Roger and his Dalmatian Pongo. One day they have a chance meeting with Anita and her Dalmatian Purdy. They all instantly fall in love, and both humans and Dalmatians get married. Shortly after that, Dalmatian Purdy becomes pregnant. One person who is very excited about this is Cruella de Vil, a woman who loves fur. When the 15 puppies are born, Cruella offers a great sum of money to acquire them, but Roger and Anita turn her down, much to Cruella's dismay. Cruella then hires goons Jasper and Horace to kidnap the pups while Roger and Anita are walking Pongo and Purdy. The pups are then taken to Cruella's old mansion, where they are to be made into clothing for Cruella, along with 84 other kidnapped Dalmatians. Heartbroken parents Pongo and Purdy decide to take matters into their own paws. They twilight bark their tale of woe. This barking network goes all across London, getting every dog's attention, and the pups are eventually located. Pongo and Purdy then go to get their children. Meanwhile, Cruella demands that all 99 Dalmatians turn into clothing right away, as the police are getting closer and closer. However, the animals that located the Dalmatians helped them escape. After some hijinks, the pups escape from Jasper and Horace and are reunited with their parents. Their journey back home is a difficult one, but animals help them along the way. Cruella meets up with Jasper and Horace and is in hot pursuit of the dogs. After following their trail, the pups are found by Cruella and her goons, but the dogs outsmart them and eventually get away. Later, the dogs all return home, and the movie ends with Roger, Anita, and all 101 Dalmatians living happily ever after. Okay, so that was our synopsis. Now let's get into the differences, even though these two films are pretty similar. But I guess we should start at the most obvious difference. One is a cartoon, and one is live action.
As I was watching it, because my fiance was actually interested in this film as opposed to most of the ones we do, she was like, "Oh, we're about to get hit with a ton of CGI," and it's actually not the case. There's a very limited amount of CGI in the film, and the remake does just a lot of what must have been very technical, really impressive animal work throughout.
Yeah, I was excited to watch the remake because it was 1996, and I knew it wouldn't be CGI heavy. At that point, I don't think there were many movies that sort of integrated live action with like CGI animals. And I looked it up. I think they actually had about over 200 Dalmatians on set. Yeah, so they had their work cut out for them, but I think it worked. I liked it. I liked seeing the live animals, and I think even if they made it today with CGI animals, I don't know if I'd buy it so much, you know?
I think that what they ended up doing with this film is unique. Just appreciation and respect to the director for being able to work with that many animals. And I know we're going to get into differences between characters and things along those natures, but just an early insight for me. I think the animals are doing a lot of the work here in the film, and the humans actually almost take a back seat throughout the film. So it's something we'll discuss, but I noticed that early.
Oh yeah, the animals are definitely the stars of the remake, for sure. Just, again, from a technical standpoint, just being able to, tame or get those animals to behave the way you want to is just an incredible feat on its own. It's well-deserved praise he gets there for getting all these animals to actually do what they needed to do in order to tell the story.
Along the lines of talking about telling the story, one other very notable difference is that there's a significant amount of it's animated, so voiceover isn't really the right word, but the animals talk more or less, at least amongst themselves, in the original film, whereas a lot of the action is implied in the remake, so there's no talking animals in the remake while they're attempting to tell ultimately the exact same story. So that's another notable difference.
Yeah, that was another reason I was looking forward to the remake, because the original, we have the animals talking. They have, like you said, they have voiceovers, and they talk to each other, all the animals. And I was thinking 1996, again, they don't have the technology they have today to make animals' mouths move and look like they're actually pronouncing the words that they're saying. So I figured there's only really two ways they can go about this in the remake. They either don't have the animals talk and they're able to tell the story some other way, or they kind of do the Homeward Bound thing, where the animals are kind of talking to each other, but they're not really talking.
Right. Homeward Bound, great film as well.
Yeah, and it's in the movie too. It's on the TV. So.
Yeah, there's some nice references throughout the film to other animal-based films. With that difference, the talking versus the not talking of the animals is going to come into play in our discussion. But I think to truly appreciate that difference, it would be best for us to sort of talk about the differences between the characters. Again, slight differences, but I think they do ultimately change some of the beats in the films. So I think we should probably talk about the humans, I guess. We'll start with the humans and then work our way into some of the differences. That being said, Roger, our bachelor, again, knowing that we are going to talk more about the talking, but I do like the little misdirection at the beginning of the film where you believe it's Roger's voice that is being heard. It ends up being Pongo, and he references that Roger is his pet. The humans are the pets in the original, and Roger's, as Pongo says, an interesting one. He's got his routine. He's a musician. You may have a special place in your heart for that particular profession.
Oh, that I did, and particularly because when he writes the Cruella de Vil song, he comes up with the melody first, And then his wife kind of makes fun of him. Oh, that's great lyrics. He's like, melody first, oh, darling, and then the lyrics. I'm like, man after my own heart. It's exactly how I wrote songs. So, yeah, I like the animated Roger very much. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I wanted to see how accurate that was. Like, if you would have written something in that fashion. But question answered already. Nice.
I mean, you could write it any way you want to. If you do have the words, you could put a melody to it. But the way I wrote songs always was melody first and then lyrics second. Yeah.
Roger in the original, his general vibe to me is kind of like it's more like understated. He's a particularly normal guy, but maybe because of the location of the film, a British like straight laced attitude.
Well, they're different Rogers, right? I mean, if you want to just get down to the bare bones of it, the original Roger is a British musician, and then the Roger in the remake is an American video game developer. So they're coming from completely different backgrounds right off the bat. I agree. So their personalities are going to be very different. That's
a good point. Whereas your original Roger, real straight-laced London guy, smokes his pipe, he has a routine. He's not going to go to the park before a certain time each day. He's got his routine. Jeff Daniels in the remake, I didn't get it. Because I was sitting there, and again, like I said, I watched it with my fiance. I'm sitting there and I was thinking, was Jeff Daniels this popular in '96 when it comes to like children's movies?
Dumb and Dumber came out a couple years ago, possible.
Yeah, he felt so kind of like slapsticky and goofy, but not really in a fun way. He didn't seem to fit. Because like they're still in London. Everyone is more or less has like British accents, and he's like he doesn't try at all. Like he's just talking like normal American guy. Like I don't understand what was going on there.
I guess I don't really know Jeff Daniels to do accents in movies, so I feel like even if he did a British accent, it would maybe just pull you out of it right away. Like, whoa, what's the guy from Dumb and Dumber doing with a British accent all of a sudden? So I think if you hire Jeff Daniels, you kind of know right away that, okay, he's not going to be British, this lead character. Yeah. Why they decided to go that way, I'm not exactly sure. I did look it up. The first choice for Roger in the remake was actually Hugh Grant. And just by saying that out loud, I think he realized, oh yeah, that makes sense. that would have been perfect.
That makes sense. It fits more in line with the original character, the way it was sort of portrayed in the film. I could see Hugh Grant being a bit more sort of like stately, a little more gentlemanly, whereas Jeff Daniels, I don't know, he just kind of comes across as a klutz. He's really hapless throughout the film. I thought that the change, making him a video game developer, I don't know, just had a little bit too much of that 90s tinge to it, when things were kind of like to the max and the extreme. Like, it just didn't feel right. He was a video game developer. The video game clearly looked like something that they were probably trying to market, like once the movie came out, something that we can sell so the kids can play. They've got that kid who's supposed to be like the sort of comedic relief in that scene who's just like, this game sucks, I don't know, it just kind of threw me off. I sort of preferred the musician because, things were a little more neat. We didn't need all the extracurriculars for the character.
I like the musician profession better, but I think I understand why they made him something else, like a video game developer. First of all, I can't see Jeff Daniels as a musician. And
there's that.
Second of all, like the songs that Roger writes in the original cartoon, they're very like of the time, right? Kind of made this bluesy, jazzy kind of melody thing. If the Roger in the remake is supposed to be this working musician, do you really think he could make a living off of these old-timey songs? Right? He would almost have to write modern pop songs. And again, I can't see Jeff Daniels writing like a Spice Girls type song, It was, I guess it was just done for the time that it was made. I don't think Jeff Daniels is believable as a musician, but maybe he's believable as a game developer. I don't even believe him that much as that.
I don't believe him much as that, but I could appreciate how he does portray being a failure at his job pretty well. He's really good at that. I believe that. I think you're right that in a film where you're taking out some of the speaking elements, where music played a fairly significant role in the first film. Yeah, you don't want to really dive into like 90s pop, I think, in this particular film. So this shift in jobs, actually, I think you're right that it makes sense because you don't have to have a music focused film. The music was more of a background in this particular film than some of the bigger moments that you see in the original, where like the Cruella de Vil song is like a huge moment through the film and permeates through it. Whereas here, music, not so much. We're all about the dogs, more puppy. That's what we signed up for.
And I really like how they made Roger a musician in order to introduce those songs, because, those old Disney movies, they're all intertwined with musical numbers, and instead of just everyone breaking out into song in the middle of the story, you just, this guy's a musician, and here's a song he's writing. Having that as your bookmarks in the beginning and the end of the movie worked really well.
Totally agree. The other thing, just going through our notes and really feeling it, I was watching the film, I also didn't really believe Jeff Daniels as the love interest either. The way he carried himself in that sort of preposterously long bike dragging scene, like the amount of time that he spends getting dragged by his dog was ridiculous. And then as soon as they were done with that, they immediately put the Anita character on a bike to be dragged, and I'm just like, this is crazy. I don't know, the first film, I know it's animated, but like the way the characters are designed and look, I could see like that Roger walking through the park in a bachelorette, as it were, seeing him and being interested. Whereas like Jeff Daniels, fresh off of failure, goofily getting dragged around the park, a really kind of crazy slapstick way, is ruining things, actually ruining things. She thinks she's stealing his dog. Like the amount of like shit that's piling up from like Jeff Daniels' character just makes him not seem like a woman would then be interested in going on a date with him, like immediately following that sequence of events.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree. I was watching the movie with my wife, and wow, I never heard so much hatred coming from her during the movie. She hated the introduction of Jeff Daniels to Anita in that movie. She didn't understand it. She was just like, I don't know, why would she like him? He's an idiot. He's like goofy. He's stupid. He tried to steal her dog. Why is she smitten with him? She didn't understand. She couldn't wrap her head around it. And I was just like, trying to enjoy the movie. But then, like, I guess the further I watched, I was like, yeah, what? I don't understand how this love story is progressing. Like, Anita falls for Roger pretty quickly in both movies, but I like how they did it in the original, how it was like a disaster, Pongo does the same kind of thing. He pulls them, and they both fall in water. And then it's like, she's just like mortified about what's happening, and Roger's apologizing. I'm sorry. And then he pulls out a wet handkerchief, and then there's a moment. They have a laugh. Right. There's that little connection. And then that's all the original needed. It was so brief, but you understood, because like, this isn't the movie about them. This is about their dogs.
Right.
So having it be brief like that, and just having that little moment was enough. And then in the remake, they draw it out, they drag it out, and then it's just like less charming as it goes on. And you're just like scratching your head like, I'm not seeing any connection at all between these two.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, the charm in the original. Again, these people have their own, especially given the time, their own societal norms. And for something like that to happen, like kind of this goofy thing when everyone's so sort of like put together, it takes some of the wind out of that old school British pomp and circumstance. So like that experience felt natural. It felt like you mentioned, a charming moment. This is a good time to note that sort of the differences in the Anitas, because I think it ties back in to this meeting. In the original Anita, you really don't get much intro to her other than sort of that play where Pongo's looking for eligible bachelorettes, which I thought was very cool, that they had the ladies sort of being represented by the dogs that they had, or vice versa, and how like the humans matched the dogs, which added to that the sort of dog, I guess, romance. I didn't think I would be saying that sentence. The remake, however, gives you a bit more of an intro to Anita. You see that she's kind of has this like career sort of professional thing going on. Cruella de Vil basically like works in fashion, and Anita works for her. So you kind of get to see that she's a pretty serious professional as well, who like cares about her career before she meets Roger, as played by Jeff Daniels, which actually then added more to the fact that I can't get why these two would date. Just based on how serious she seemed and how hapless he was. I mean, within the first couple minutes, he's like beating the guy up because he's taking the wrong dog. Again, another idiot move, you know. And she carries bricks in her purse.
Well, she said she finds bricks and puts them in her purse.
That's fair.
And then she said she found about 3, and he said, "Oh, yeah, that feels about right." That was the only moment that I laughed during that whole interaction. I was like, "Oh, that's funny."
You know, the kind of crazy thing, like you said, drawing it out. It's kind of like there's an opportunity there to kind of like get the relationship sort of jump started, but they then choose to not do it there, and they both kind of like walk away, but they're doing this weird thing where they're sort of like stalking each other as they're leaving the park. Both get on their bikes, and then she ends up getting dragged around by a bike, and it's just like, wow, this is kind of long, you know. I thought honestly, in the original, less is more, because ultimately the movie is not even really about the humans; it's about the dogs.
Yeah, as maybe rushed as the original introduction of Roger and Anita was, I thought it was enough. And yeah, it is. We just want to get to the dogs. This is a story about the dogs, so I was okay with it. And it had its charming moment. And then, like you said, it's like we're on bikes, we're off bikes, we're back on bikes. Now she's wet. It's like, oh, so much there that was unnecessary. It really should have just ended about a third of the way.
It was at that point, really, after she's like kind of clocked this guy with the bricks, like it was a hard sell for me to believe that she's interested in him. Like the idea of her kind of like wondering where he was going, like seemed strange. And just the fact that like he wasn't picking up on any social cues, or like he didn't get the vibe that she liked him at all throughout like that entire experience. And even when they're back in like the apartment, there's still like a back and forth. I'm just like, can we get to this? Like, I'm just confused by, I don't know, like based on our notes and sort of the way Jeff Daniels came across to me, I agree that it felt like a bit of a miscast because he just did not seem to fit the character. And he took me out of it more than he kept me in with the humor, you know?
Yeah, I could agree to that. Yeah. That whole scene when they're in their apartment and they're just talking this nonsense like, well, our dogs like each other. Well, they don't want to go. What are we going to do about it? Like you said, less is more, man. Just the longer they talked, the more I was just like, just pulling my hair out. Like, please end. I just want to see the dogs. I don't care about your romance that you're forcing down my throat.
Not to beat up on Jeff Daniels too much, I think sort of shifting here. I love the fact that they fleshed out the Anita character. I thought that was a smart choice. I like Jolie Richardson's Anita. I thought that it was a fine performance. I also love that they fleshed out Cruella de Vil instead of just being sort of like this rando former like sweet mate in college.
Yeah, it was just like a former classmate or something.
I like the fact that they fleshed out the female characters in the films, like giving Anita some personal agency and having her have her own career was nice. And it also was a great way of introducing this over-the-top Cruella de Vil that we get introduced to in the remake.
Yeah, I'll say that I really like what the remake did in setting up both of those female characters. I thought it was great to, have their connection be more than just like former schoolmates. Like that Cruella kind of does have this power over Anita as her boss. The threat of Cruella, has more implications than just, oh, I don't want to make my former schoolmate mad. And so it's like, I don't want my boss to be pissed at me because I could get fired, Yeah. So I thought having the relationship be employee and boss just escalated things for them, which I appreciated.
I agree with you on that. That adding that power dynamic made Cruella make more sense. It gave you an insight into her wealth and her influence in town. Like she's a big deal fashion person. The way it's portrayed, you get that. They don't have to say it. You see it on film. And I like that. I like when movies are able to do that, not beat you over the head with it. And it allowed Glenn Close to really lean into that role. Her eccentric nature fit with sort of the profession that she was in and like you mentioned, the power that she wielded over all these different people. The original Cruella is a great character, another eccentric character, but it comes across as just more random evil as opposed to she likes furs, but beyond that in the remake, that's her business.
Hmm.
She's changing, like stripes are in this season. It's like, no, what about spots? I found that to be interesting, and in a weird way, I know they don't truly dive into this. What caused this initial conflict was actually one of Anita's own designs. She almost, in a way, sort of introduced this danger into her own life by some of her drawings at work, which I thought was actually a cool dynamic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know if I have much more to add about their setup. I think you kind of nailed everything about like their relationships.
I love what Glenn Close is doing in the film. It's completely over the top in a really, really good way. Before we dive too far into her performance, I guess moving on in the film, Roger and Anita get married, and you get another subtle difference between the two films in the next sequence where Purdy the dog becomes pregnant in both films, but at the same time in the remake, Anita's pregnant, and you get a funny little beat where they go to the doctor and the vet simultaneously, which I thought was kind of a ridiculous scene, but a fun watch. Even with that minor difference, you still get Cruella coming back and being completely obsessed with the dogs in both films. And I think this is where Glenn Close really starts to sort of break out. Cruella de Vil is a definitive character, but Glenn Close, I mean, she took the ball and ran with this thing. I don't know if you agree.
Before I get to there, let's talk a little bit about that pregnancy. Anita being pregnant. Yeah. What'd you think about that?
I don't think that it added to the film.
No, me neither. Okay.
Because the kid's not really there, Just, I guess, the gestation period of humans and dogs is slightly different. I don't know if it comes back into play because I do know this movie was not to jump too far ahead here, but I know that they kind of went for a sequel angle after this. I don't know if the human baby comes into play there, but like it just seems to be an unnecessary addition. I found it funny that they both kind of like left the doctor at the same time, but other than that, it doesn't add to anything, so it didn't need to happen.
Yeah, it didn't need to happen. I don't know why they did it. Maybe, like you said, maybe they're setting up the sequel, but it didn't add anything. The baby never affected anything, the unborn baby. All it did was like set up the ending, I guess, that they might have another kid. Other than that, I didn't care. I want to see the dogs. I don't care about your human baby. Show me the dogs.
Because it didn't do anything, and because of how recently I'd watched the other film, I didn't truly care for it. Like I said, I like that one beat, but other than that, there's no reason for it, so it could have been excluded completely. I guess along the same lines, you get a bit of a different dynamic with a character we haven't talked about yet, but Nanny, whereas in the original film, how did they afford Nanny?
Good question. Maybe she was just a family loan or something? I don't know, because they did not have money.
It was very explicitly said that they didn't have a lot of money. So I thought it was weird that they had a maid. But okay, in the remake, I guess Nanny kind of comes along as more of like, to me, it seemed like some sort of family member. From what I could tell, I guess her presence made more sense given the fact that like there was a kid along the way. So maybe that's why she was pregnant. Because other than that, there's not a real reason to have Nanny there in the remake because she's not really a maid per se.
I'm not sure. I thought she was the maid in the original though, wasn't she? She was like tidying up and everything.
Yeah, I mean, she was full on like in the outfit, full almost like French maid type outfit, and she was tidying up. She clearly like worked for them, In the remake, not so much. I guess she seemed more like a caretaker than someone that worked for them.
I didn't really remember much of what she did, but she had this speech in the remake when Purdy was pregnant. This really cheesy. Look at her face. You could see it in her face, the love, and it's just a little too much for me, a little too mushy and cheesy for me. Her little look how lovely she looks when she's pregnant speech. Even my wife was like, "Oh, this is garbage."
Yeah, didn't need it. I found the character to be okay. I like the Nanny characters in both films, kind of like these tough older women who, again, a little rough around the edges when the time comes. But other than that, really, kind of more of a throwaway character, especially in the remake, where there's not much for her to do in the film.
Yeah.
I think adding that monologue was like you mentioned, unnecessary, and it just felt strange.
Maybe just to give her a line, just to justify her getting a paycheck. I don't know.
But you have the same sequence in both films where uh, Purdy has 15 puppies. There's a moment where they think they may have lost one, but Roger sort of brings it back.
Yeah, that
And
bringing it back, or just going there, I don't know how much you know
yeah,
about that. Like, I didn't get that in the original, and I didn't get it in the remake, and I was like, this is stupid. And then I read it, and then the original author, her husband did the same thing to their Dalmatian and brought him back to life kind of like that. So apparently it really happened.
okay,
Yeah, because I was like, this seems really fake, but apparently it's what happened to the author's husband.
especially for like a children's film to sort of kind of like start exploring that seemed a little unnecessary. I mean, it's good that it sort of resolved in a good way, and then you get, I guess, the dog Lucky in both films. But I don't know, it just seemed I don't want to say inappropriate, but it seemed a little more kind of involved or mature for like a children's film. And honestly, in the remake, it just felt even more like not necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed more like a fantasy, you know. Like I said, I didn't think it could happen, but apparently it happened. So I don't know. I'm still not sure if it could actually happen.
I hear what you're saying, and again, to this point, it's a small moment in the film, but there's not much that Jeff Daniels has done before this moment to make you think that he would have been the one to like kind of save the day there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another moment that, of course, you had it in both films. I guess you had it in the book, but you're right. It takes me out of it a little bit. Yeah. Again, it just didn't feel like Roger was the one that was going to save the day there. I just didn't get that vibe from him.
Yeah. Could be Jeff Daniels' portrayal. I guess I am going to be ripping into his portrayal a little bit here.
Perfectly fine.
One of the things that I think was done better in the original was actually the relationship between Roger and Pongo. That relationship seemed more like buddy-buddy, whereas like I felt in the remake like Pongo was just almost a burden to Roger a lot of the times, especially in the beginning during that park scene. And I know he kind of was a clever dog and he got him his coffee and woke him up in the middle of the morning, but like I never saw any appreciation from Roger at all. I don't know, I guess the cartoon, Roger really, I just felt the love Roger had for Pongo. And he was always like so excited for him all the time. Like when Purdy's pregnant and he's just like, oh my God, Pongo, this is amazing. And then like when it's 15 pups, Roger's like to Pongo, you old dog, he's kind of like egging him on. Even at the end of the movie when it's like, oh, now there's 99 Dalmatian puppies. And then again, Roger's just like, Pongo, you animal.
Yeah.
It's funny little beats, just between pet and owner. And I don't think there were many moments like that between Roger and Pongo in the remake. And I missed them.
You make a good point. I mean, like as like the puppies are being born, Roger's like shaking hands with Pongo and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. Their relationship definitely feels more, I don't know, like you said, it's the more buddy-buddy. Like they feel like true companions.
Right.
Yeah, I get that the dog is smart, or Pongo's smart in the remake, but even the intro to him is so different. Like they've got this like almost weird Rube Goldberg machine where like a freaking alarm clock hits Pongo in the head, I guess every day, to like start a sequence of events that basically just ends with like Jeff Daniels like taking a shower and getting like toast. You know what I mean? Like it just like you're right. Like this dog's doing all this crazy stuff to like make this human's life better or easier, and there's just, like you said, there's no appreciation for it.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, hey, what's up, Pongo? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's totally one way.
Is it the Jeff Daniels effect, or what's truly kind of causing us to not see that kind of buddy relationship between a man and his dog? That's kind of like a classic portrayal. So it's strange that the mark is missed so hard in this remake there.
It could be a number of things. It could be part of Jeff Daniels. It could be also, you got the live action dog instead of the animated dog, which will do whatever you want. So you don't know if Jeff Daniels was able to bond with the dog. Maybe he wasn't, and he just couldn't get those emotions through either one of them. But or it just could have been the writing. It just wasn't written to show their relationship more. It was just to focus on, I guess, the puppies more than having their relationship grow or anything.
You do often find in like films like this that you also have very likely that there were multiple dogs involved in these scenes. So that could sort of take away from it seeming like there was a bonding because you're not necessarily working with the same animal when you're talking about practically shooting those types of scenes.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, there was over 200 dogs, so who knows how many Pongos there were. But I still think they could have written more just for the two of them, so they could have more moments together. They didn't really have anything except for when Purdy was giving birth. I feel like they could have had just a couple more little, hey, buddy, a couple more hey, buddies.
Yeah, I think that truly would have helped. And, it's another one of those situations where you don't have the same insight into the mind of Pongo as you do in the original, where Pongo is your narrator.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, like, Pongo explicitly talks about his human and, like, his relationship with Roger, the pet, as it were. So you kind of miss that element, and the film, I guess it's trying to show you that bond to a certain extent, but it doesn't capture it the same way.
No. And I definitely felt like when Roger denied Cruella the puppies in the original, like he was looking out for Pongo's best interest. But because I didn't see the relationship as tight in the remake, I guess I didn't buy Jeff Daniels saying, no, we don't want your money. It's like, I feel like, man, you're a failure. I think you would take that money.
Yeah, agreed. You don't feel that same connection, so it doesn't ring as true when he sort of shuts down the whole Cruella thing. Did you find the price point of $7,500 to be a little low for 15 like purebred Dalmatians?
Yeah, in 1996. Yeah, well, it was pounds. I don't know what the...
Oh, yeah, true. Pound sterling.
I don't know what the exchange rate was in 96, but it definitely seemed like a low number and almost like an odd number, 7,500. I think it would just be like 10,000 even, right?
Yeah.
Nice even number.
I think that the original, by not seeing the check...
Your imagination just kind of ran wild with it. It's like, oh my God, how much money are they getting?
Right. How rich is this lady? Whereas, like, now that we've introduced the fact that this is like a famous, popular fashion designer, $7,500 for an employee as well. That just seems a little low. Maybe I don't know anything about dog breeding, but it seemed like a small enough number that, like, hey, get out of here, lady. Leave me alone.
And not only like do you not see it in the original, but she says, "Oh, fine, I'll even double it." So this imaginary number, she doubles it in the cartoon. You're like, "What? What is this number? I need to know."
In my head, it was like a preposterous amount of money. Like it was enough to like buy a new house.
Yeah, it was six figures in my head.
Yeah, Whereas like, all right, 7,500. Like obviously nothing to scoff at, but like I'm sitting there and I'm just like, well. I don't even know if I would sell the dogs at that price point. Like, what's going on here, man?
Yeah, you're right. Making her this fashion mogul, she's got money to burn, and she's a little skimpy there with the checks.
Right? But maybe that was a choice because like the Glenn Close, her take is so. Personally, I love it. I don't know how you feel about it, but I thought she was great. Well worth the price of admission.
Well, we're going to have to disagree, Reggie. We're going to have to disagree. I couldn't stand it, man. I liked it at first. Like I said, I liked the setup. You made her Anita's boss. You gave her this fashion empire. You gave her more of a reason to kind of look the way she looks and almost act the way she was acting. And I liked her in the beginning of the movie. I liked just hearing Glenn Close have this like really high kind of stingy kind of voice.
Yeah.
And she just turned into a Batman villain for me. A Schumacher Batman villain. And I was just like, oh no, I can't do this. She laughed the evil laugh way too much. I was just like, you don't have to do the evil laugh after you say everything. We get it. You're evil. It was too over the top for me. It was just too much, man.
That sort of like moonlit sequence where she like basically becomes a silhouette.
I know.
And, like, she's just like at a ridiculous angles with her body and laughing. You know what? I'm a fan.
I mean, you go by all means be a fan. I'm just trying to explain why it didn't work for me. Like going back to that scene, I think she was like, "And I'm going to be wearing Anita's puppies," and then she breaks out into like evil laughter. It's like, oh my god, it's so over the top. It's like we get it. You don't have to do this. You know, it's like I just feel like it could have been done differently, where she was just like, "Well, I have to kill a few hundred puppies, but that's what I got to do for fashion." Like she could have just underplayed it a little bit, pulled back on the laughter a little bit, and you know, she's like later in the movie, she's about to kill one of the puppies in the barn. I'm getting ahead here, but and then she's like, "I love the sound of things near their extinction." She says that to herself. Like, come on, man. What are you doing?
You're right. She does. She lays it on pretty thick. The cackles come often throughout the film.
It's like half her dialogue, evil laughter.
Oh, for sure. I would say, at least half of the dialogue is evil laughter. It's interesting when you look at sort of the advertising for the film. She's like the villain, but also sort of the main sort of selling point of the movie, which I think is kind of strange, don't you think?
Yeah, I think I remember the trailers back in the day, and there was an awful lot of Glenn Close there. I think it was just like, look, we got a really serious actor to portray this live action version of our old cartoon character.
You get a couple of serious actors in there. I was very shocked to see Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie is Jasper.
Jasper.
Do we want to go there? Talk about Jasper and Horace?
Yeah. Is there anything that we want to finish up with Glenn Close on? I like that we disagree.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine disagreeing with you, but didn't do it for me. Every time she was on screen, I was really rooting for her too. I'm like, she's gonna hold back, right? She's just gonna give me a normal portrayal, right? But every time it was just over the top, chewing up the scenery, and I couldn't get on board with her portrayal. Sorry, Reggie. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I personally have a cackle meter in my house. And I love a good, just campy, over the top person. I think I find that when it comes to like extreme and like fully committing to just these ridiculous things, I found that it seems to be the case that I tend to prefer that, where you would prefer to scale back, because I was actually thinking about our Italian Job episode, and I was like, I love all this slapstick British crap. You're like, maybe less.
Well, I think part of it is because you're doing it live action. I think the reason you do it live action is to sort of make it more real, right? And I think that's one of the selling points of the remake. This is more real, and that's why you make the animals not talk, because this is more real. And then you have this performance, which is nothing but cartoony. So that took me immediately out of every scene she was in. She would have been perfect in Batman and Robin. I'm just saying.
You're right. Like, it did give me a bit of that vibe. Like you said, some of the ways she was shot. She's got the two-tone hair.
Yeah. A lot of Dutch tilts.
So many Dutch tilts. Yeah, you're right. She would have fit right into like a Schumacher film. She definitely could have chewed up scenery in a Batman movie. She just happened to be chewing up scenery in a 101 Dalmatians remake. But yeah, I guess we brought it up, but we should talk about it. And I think you sort of alluded to it earlier when you were talking about John Hughes. The Horace and Jasper, Hugh Laurie as Jasper. Man, I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun with that. He's such a serious and respected actor. It was interesting to see him in this role as kind of like a goon.
I liked his portrayal to a point. There's a point in the movie where they lost me with all the criminals. I guess we'll get to that later. I think you know what I'm alluding to. But I liked his portrayal because it was very kind of reserved. It was what I wanted Glenn Close to do. You know, he was an evil villain, but he wasn't maniacally laughing. You know, he wasn't just spouting out this random evil stuff to make you think he was evil. You know, he just did his thing, and you knew he was a villain, and he played off of Horace well, and I thought he did fine. I had absolutely no problem with him till that certain point in the movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hughes Jasper is, to a point, as you mentioned, more or less calm and collected. he comes across as like a career criminal. Like he seems, sort of adequate at his job. Like I like that element to him, and it really helped with those horror scenes where Horace knows what's going on, but because he's supposed to be kind of like the dumb one, nobody believes him. And I think that like the way Hugh Laurie portrays it actually made those moments feel real to me. Love him. I even like when he's beating up an old lady. That's fun.
Yeah, I had no problem with the way that I guess the kidnapping of the dog scene was staged a little bit differently in the remake. Instead of pretending they were electricians, they just bust right in and just go to steal those dogs. And then we get Nanny fighting Horace and Jasper a little bit. And yeah, they beat on that old lady a little bit, shove her in that closet.
They push her around. It's always a bit tougher to try to portray in a live action film two grown men roughing up an old woman. But like you said, I liked the criminals to a point. I think you bring up an excellent point, as it were.
But I did miss one thing. I missed that they didn't have that TV show, What's My Crime, in the remake.
I love that, because at first it is just sort of like background noise. That What's My Crime? But then when
they're one of their buddies is there.
Just so funny. Like, I forget the term because it's a little British, but basically like when the woman asks if like they basically killed somebody, like, hey, did you like off somebody? And it's like, no, of course not. I thought that was funny. What's My Crime? Good pull, man.
Yeah, but I like their portrayals for the most part.
Yeah.
Should we get into the part of the movie where I didn't like their portrayals?
Yeah, I want to hear what's got you irked about the villains.
I mean, they were great. Like I said, he was pretty reserved, but he was still a villain and played off of Horace really well. And then it was Horace and Jasper, and they were great. And then they became Harry and Marv in Home Alone 3. And then they lost me. They lost me completely. Especially since you set up Hugh Laurie he's pretty intimidating, kind of badass. And then now he's going to be doing all these Home Alone type gags. Isn't that great? No, it's not great. No, it's not great at all.
No, exactly. Like, at first they're sort of their own characters, but then you're right. It just becomes just these Home Alone prank after Home Alone prank.
It was literally a Harry and Marv ripoff because he looks like Marv, especially after he got electrocuted and his hair's like froed up and he's got the beard. He looks like a second-rate Marv. And then Horace has a hat like Harry always had a hat on. It was a ripoff of Harry and Marv. It was Home Alone 3 in 101 Dalmatians. Home Alone 3 does not belong in 101 Dalmatians.
You are very right, sir. It's just it got to be a bit much, and you're just looking at like, hey, I've seen this before, and not only have I seen it before, I've seen it done better.
Yes,
And that's the thing, because they're more or less the main arm of the villain, but they're not really set up to be that integral part of the film.
Right.
Like Harry and Marv, like there is a lot of foreshadowing that happens in those Home Alone movies. The Wet Bandits, they have their own sort of lore, and then you just have these two guys, like you mentioned, Hugh Laurie, seemingly rational, competent guy, just devolves into a complete idiot.
Very much grounded in reality, and then all of a sudden, again, just becomes this cartoon character. What did you do, John Hughes? Why did you think we wanted this?
Hey man, it's been working so far for him. He's thinking, hey, this is probably why I was hired. Let's give the kids what they want. It doesn't work the same.
No, it doesn't work the same. And I don't even know if it would have worked if it was just the main villain, because the same kind of situations happen to Glenn Close's character when she's in the barn. All this wacky stuff happens to her. She gets kicked by a door from the horse, and she falls into some molasses. And isn't this crazy? It really took me out of the film. Like I said, one of the reasons I was liking the remake was because it was grounded in reality. You don't have these dogs talking. It's live action, and then it just becomes this spoof of Home Alone. It's not even Home Alone. I don't know. It was just really bad Home Alone.
Yeah. all these like forced set pieces.
Yeah, it wasn't even like the animals set it up. Like sometimes there's just an accident. Like he just fell through the floor at one time. Jasper just fell through the floor randomly and fell into a pool table randomly, and then slid down that pool table randomly and got pinned to the pool table by a bull's head randomly. It was totally forced.
Yeah, and especially in this situation, they talk kind of they're fairly violent guys. Like they're ready to like mess these dogs up.
They're ready to beat them to death with a table, an arm of a table, and like what is it called? The fireplace thing. Yeah, the fireplace poker thing.
And again, at this point, I'm still on board with the characters because like the way Hugh Laurie does it, he's just like, oh, that's done.
Yeah.
Let's get to killing these dogs.
Yeah, that was a funny beat there. And then the guy flips the table over and breaks one of the legs off. It's like, okay, here we go. These guys doing their thing, their Jasper and Horace thing. Surely they're going to keep going in this direction with these two characters. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, if they would have sort of stuck with that menacing sort of vibe, while, of course, the animals are still getting away, I think it would have served the film better that you could have made it more, not like a horror film, but you know what I mean? Like, you could have had it be more like, oh no, they're getting closer, making that the threat, as opposed to now they're slipping and sliding all over the place and woo. It just didn't fit. You're right, it didn't fit the film.
Yeah, you could have just had the animals outsmarting them. You didn't have to have these slapstick gags happening to them. I mean, for God's sake, like I keep saying, it was supposed to be I thought it was supposed to be grounded in reality. Horace freezes. He literally comes out of cold water and freezes like a statue or something. And I'm just like, what are they doing? Why? Why?
Yeah. And you don't get that from the original film. I mean, the closest
you wouldn't even put that in Home Alone. I mean, it's not real. It's what are they doing?
You're right. I mean, the closest thing you get in the original film is the horses kind of like kicking them across the barn. Like that's about it when it comes to those guys getting
dogs bite them in the butt a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
And actually, the original film, which I know you couldn't truly do the same way, Pongo and Purdy really give those guys the business.
I mean, hey, you messed with their kids, which is one thing I missed in the remake, that Pongo and Purdy weren't there to help liberate them from the mansion. But because I really liked seeing Mom and Dad kick a little bit of ass, don't mess with our kids. This is what you get. Yeah, I'm going to bite you. And then like I like how the scenery, everything's red and like intense.
Yeah.
And you don't get that at all in the remake. You get Home Alone 3.
Right.
God.
Home Alone Bound.
Home Alone Bound Dalmatians.
Yeah. One thing that I will say, I kind of along these lines of talking about the liberation and stuff, because the voice acting is taken out of the film, a lot of the actual details, for instance, the Twilight bark, are missing here. Mm-hmm. You still more or less get that the dogs are communicating with each other across like long distances, but I did like the explanation of what the Twilight bark was. I did like that you had these characters that were like sort of like military figures, like the Colonel and Sergeant Tibbs, like those bits that happen, those jokes aren't really available in the remake. Definitely doesn't break anything, but I did sort of miss really hearing the details of how the Twilight bark worked. But if you were familiar with the original film, you didn't need it, but I did sort of miss that between films.
I thought it was okay what they did in the remake. Again, you're making it this realistic film, so obviously the animals can't talk to each other, but we did see the like dogs barking at each other, even like dogs barking at horses neighing. So you do get like, I guess, a colonel-like figure. But I thought they did it really well, and that was one of the things I was looking forward to the remake. It was like, how are they gonna convey these things that are done with dialogue and voiceovers, just by having animals bark? And I thought it was done really well, and I was impressed. And I even liked the remake, how it was like many animals that went to save the pups instead of just Tibbs the cat. Because for some reason that confused me in the original. It was like, okay, we know where all the puppies are. You go, Tibbs, the smallest one, while we all just wait back for you at the farm and drink tea or something. I don't know. Yeah. So I liked that the setup was there. to be awesome in the remake. You had all these animals, and they were all going to help, and it was, oh wow, it's really impressive because again, we're not dealing with CGI here. These are all real animals until we get to the puppies sliding later.
Okay,
but for the most part, it's all real animals, and it's really impressive and fun to watch. And I really liked it, and that setup was awesome. And then I was let down in the biggest way possible.
Sure. Well, I will say this: I definitely love the animal acting in the film. I actually very much prefer, especially as we're kind of starting to see here towards the end, like the animals have done no wrong throughout the film when it comes to acting, and their ability to portray the events is impressive. Great job by the director. I would prefer that over like the Jeff Daniels scenes. I prefer it over this Home Alone stuff. The way that they filmed the animals and drove a story with that was so impressive that it's such a letdown when like the human characters are like not pulling their own weight, unfortunately.
Yeah. Even the scene when the pups are first kidnapped, you just see Purdy and Pongo in the live action remake. You just see them come in, and it's not a scene that would need dialogue if humans filmed it. And then just the way the dogs were just, they walked into the room just so slow and just looked so sad at the empty bed. I liked it. It hit me. It hit my heart. I was just like, wow, this is a touching scene between these dogs. They're the best thing about this movie. All these animals.
That I agree with you on. That is the best thing about the film. The animal actors, as it were the strongest part of that film. Electrocute their nuts on fence.
Seriously, like, did they have to electrocute their nuts on the fence? I mean, again, it sounds like I'm being a dead horse here, but man, you're having these stupid gags happen to these bad criminals, these badass criminals, and then you just turn them into these second-rate cartoon characters who electrocute their nuts on an electric fence. It's like, come on. And then they fly off of it. Like, that wouldn't happen. They would just be electrocuted and die. Come on, man. Yeah.
Even even like the Skinner or whatever his name was, like who's this badass character, and he's reduced in the same way. And by the end, after all these cartoonish things have happened and all these bad characters are being locked up, it's still going with it.
We're still in Home Alone phase.
It's like, oh man, a skunk. Oh, skunk. Boy.
And it's oh jeez. Sorry, go ahead. Did you finish?
No, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much finished. It's just like, you guys got skunked in the back of a police van. That's okay.
That's how we're ending all our villains in this movie, with the skunk in the back of a police van. But going back to that Skinner character, I thought he was a really cool inclusion in the movie. He's this silent guy with a huge scar on his lip. He obviously doesn't say anything. And he's the one that skins the dogs. And I liked that inclusion because I wasn't so confident that the original Horse and Jasper could do it in the cartoon. I'm like, these are criminals. I don't know if they know how to skin dogs. So I know I shouldn't be rooting for them, but I was a little concerned that if they did succeed in their plan, that the skinning of the animals would go poorly. So you have this guy that's an expert in that. And I thought, oh, that makes sense. And he's really cool, and he's pretty badass too.
Yeah.
And like you said, just another cartoon character in the end.
Yeah. He's like this ominous figure. Like, even the villains are afraid of him. He clearly has like some sort of dark past, and hell, a dark present, because this guy is willing to, do dirty deeds for money.
He'll call you on the phone and tap on it like in Morse code. That was so cool, right?
That was really cool.
He was such a cool. Everything was set up so well in this movie.
They had it. They just had to get it across the line, and I don't know if it was notes, if someone said, hey, this didn't test well with the kids, we need to add more of that. Because, I mean, at the time, a lot of films for kids were doing that type of stuff. Like, you had films like this, like you mentioned, Home Alone. I watched like Mousetrap recently.
Mousetrap! I like that movie.
I do like that movie, but like, there's a lot of films where there's like people are getting beat up like Looney Tunes characters ad nauseum in film.
Like Three Ninjas did it too.
it just didn't, like you mentioned, it just didn't fit this particular format.
No, not at all. Especially when
No.
you have such good source material. All you had to do was build. You didn't have to rip apart and destroy and add this new thing. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah, and it's like there were choices that were made that were nice and they were good setup. Like we mentioned Skinner. Like boy, if they would have really stuck with that, that could have been interesting. You know, it could
Hmm.
have been like the sub boss type of character in the film, and that doesn't really materialize.
No. They really dropped the ball with that, with a lot of these characters.
Yeah, unfortunate. Let's see.
Yeah, what else can we talk about? I mean, I know I'm ripping apart the remake right now, but there are things that I did like that they included. You know, obviously not the Home Alone stuff, but like there was the inclusion of like the scene where all the puppies get their collars. I thought that was a nice little beat because you don't get a moment like that in the original. All of a sudden, you know, Purdy's just pregnant, and all of a sudden all the puppies are born. You don't get this moment to like kind of let it sink in who they are and give them each like a different collar. You don't get all 15 a different collar, but at least we had, you know, at least a little introduction. And so I know who these puppies are and I care about them a little more. I feel like
Yeah,
that introduction, yeah, just made me care a little bit more about the puppies, at least initially. And I thought that was a great inclusion.
yeah. I think that is a good inclusion because in the other film, you know, the dogs have traits, and you know, you sort of pick up on them as they're kind of just throwing each other's names around while watching TV. But this, you're right. It's another chance for the humans to interact with the dogs. It's more of like a warm moment there. Um, I wasn't a huge fan of like the wizard joke, but I was like, all right, I got it. Like, you know, I'll take it. Take the good with the bad. But yeah, no, it was a strong scene that, you know, these moments like that are where the movie shone.
Right. Exactly. I wish I had more moments like that, but it didn't. But there was another sort of inclusion in the remake that I appreciated, and that's just the involvement of the police in general. In the original, there's no police. Roger and Anita, they sort of drop out of the film after the puppies get kidnapped. But at least in the remake, they're shown just like calling the police, you know, even sort of searching with the police.
Yeah,
And then the police are the ones that ultimately return the dogs home. And I don't know, I just appreciated that because I was missing like Roger and Anita in the original the whole time the puppies were away. I was like, well, what are they doing? Are they doing anything? And you don't get anything from them. And I understand it's like, you know, it's an animated movie and only so much you want to animate. But, you know, I like seeing Roger and Anita just trying to find them, doing something themselves instead of just like, okay, I'm sure Pongo and Purdy will figure it out.
yeah. They just kind of, like you said, they just kind of drop out, and it it makes more sense that they're so actively involved throughout the film, and it was a smart call to actually show that. Yeah, the original. Yeah, okay, we went to Scotland Yard, we got nothing, and then more dogs go missing, and we don't. You're right, we don't see them again until the dogs really come back.
Yeah. I'm looking at my notes. It looks like I might have gone over everything.
I think we kind of hit everything we needed to. I don't know if we want to break sort of break down like our final impressions, or if there's anything else we want to fill it out with. But I mean, just looking at the notes, in terms of
Oh,
like,
I guess the one thing is the music. Maybe we can talk a little bit more
yeah,
about that.
yeah, it's a good idea.
So I guess we've almost talked about everything, but one thing we didn't talk about was, well, we didn't talk too much about, at least, was the music. We had mentioned that Roger was a musician and he wrote two songs, the Cruella de Vil and Dalmatian Plantation in the original, but we don't really get those songs in the remake. I think I might have heard a little bit of the Cruella de Vil melody in the remake. Did you hear it at all?
Yeah, I believe that they do mess with the melody a bit. It's background though. You're not
Yeah.
getting it the same way you have in that first film. Um,
And then,
I really like that I really like the sequence in the first film where as you're getting introduced to Corella and Rogers writing the song, and like like you mentioned, it didn't have the lyrics yet, but it showed some of Roger's character,
Yeah.
and his own sort of toughness when this woman comes about who he doesn't like, and he sort of lets it be known, and he's writing the songs, and it built out his character a bit, and I appreciate that in the original film.
Yeah, I really like that about him in the original. When she's over, she's trying to, or Anita's trying to at least talk to Cruella, and then he's just upstairs writing the song, playing as loud as he can to ruin their conversation because he hates Cruella so much. He's blowing the trombone directly down. And he's being a dick on purpose. I love it. I really like that because you think, oh, okay, this is one of our good guys. He's just gonna be really polite. No, he doesn't like you, and he's gonna let you know. So yeah, that really gave his character a lot of depth. So I really liked his character. And I was, like I said, he kind of drops out when the puppies are kidnapped, and I was hoping I would get a little bit more of him.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then you have you got Michael Kamen's score and the remake, and it's this kind of light, up-tempo, very whimsical score, a type of score you might expect in a Home Alone movie. And I mean, there's a lot of situations where if there wasn't that music playing, it would be terrifying. Like when Pongo's pulling Roger down the stairs on the bicycle, like I'd be scared shitless if I was going downstairs. But then the movie, you got the music playing, and it's fun, it's light. But no, this is scary. I could die. I could hurt somebody. This is a very dangerous situation. Damn you, your music.
Get hit by a car, you know?
Yeah, right. So there's a lot of times where the music makes everything a lot lighter than it should be, especially in the last half.
Well, sometimes you're getting electrocuted.
You want some nice light music to be played.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, just in general, I like that Roger's a musician, and I liked those songs in the beginning and the end of the movie, and kind of wish we heard some of the actual like lyrics, or like just heard it maybe on the radio or something. I don't know. In the remake.
Yeah, that would have been nice. We'll say, the music in the original, because the original songs, they had lyrics that were more memorable, but the music was a big part of the remake because you have so many sequences where you don't have like humans acting or doing voice work. The music's helping sort of drive along, like you mentioned, tone, things of that nature. I tend to be a little less in tune with music than you are because I know you have the musical background. But, I appreciate it. Just nothing really stuck out to me per se. But that the music was important for a lot of this stuff to even make sense, as you mentioned, with that bike sequence, which could have been completely terrifying by sort of framing what's going on. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, that old school Disney music, you can't beat these iconic songs. They've lasted the test of time.
No, they're definitely good.
I mean, Dalmatian Plantation, I can do without it.
Yeah, that one's okay.
Bill.
Cruella de Vil is classic. I get your point though. I get it was really useful. Michael Kamen's score, like those long scenes with just the dogs kind of barking during the Twilight bark, because. How else are you gonna know what's happening? And I guess emotionally with the story, or like, is the Twilight bark working at all? The music helps you and lets you know that, oh yeah, this is working, and the animals are communicating and being helpful. So music definitely plays a big part there in the remake.
Yeah, I think we hit a lot of the notes that I wanted to hit. The films are similar. There's big difference in terms of how they're filmed, their approach to the way that the animals communicate in either film. I think we talked about a lot of the strengths of the films and definitely some of the weaknesses in the remake when it comes to characters who's, they start off so strong. It's like, oh, all right, I think we're going to get across the finish line. And then they just kind of peter out towards the end. And it's unfortunate because you had, like you mentioned, these strong introductions that just kind of, they get sort of destroyed with a weird tonal shift.
Yes, it was a complete tonal shift. It was a complete 180, and I don't know about most people, but for me, it didn't work. But maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Reggie, let's get to the final verdict here. Should the remake of 101 Dalmatians exist? What do you think?
Given the amount of time that passed between both films, and the fact that we went with a live action film instead of like another animation, and it actually sort of revived and sparked interest in that franchise. There's some glaring issues that happen there. I don't know why Jeff Daniels is the main guy. I can see where you're going with like Glenn Close, maybe going a little too heavy into her evil. There's parts of the movie I don't like, but I think what they were able to do with the dogs and the other animals in the film and the way that they were able to really portray a major film with mostly animals, I was really impressed. So I'm glad that it exists. It's not my favorite, but I think it should exist. It was a good enough movie for that.
So when I was watching the original, I do this a lot. I say, what can the remake do to justify its existence? And two main things hit me, I guess. I was really curious to see how the live action remake could make the movie without actually having the animals talk or have any voiceovers. In that regard, I think the remake succeeded. Like we said, the animals are the best part of the film. They're just what they were able to do with these live action animals. And just before the age of CGI took over everything, it's really an impressive feat, and they're absolutely the best part of the film. That was my number one thing. Number two was I was hoping to get a little bit more out of my human characters. Roger and Cruella were my favorite characters from the original, and I didn't think they had enough screen time, so I was hoping that the live-action remake could expand their parts. It did. And what they did with it, I absolutely hated. I did not like Jeff Daniels' portrayal. It was just so flat for me. He didn't bring anything to it. There's nothing endearing about his character like the original Roger was. And maybe it's just because he's not a musician anymore, but like I honestly felt like he just didn't have anything that I wanted to see. And the love story between him and Anita just felt so weak. The relationship between him and Pongo felt even weaker. I didn't like it. And then we have Cruella, who I've already said I just thought was a Batman villain in a 100 Dalmatians film. I liked her setup. I liked it so much, and I was rooting for her so much. I was willing to look over a few of the early laughs in the beginning, but then she just kept hitting the same notes over and over again, and I finally got tired of it, and then ultimately had enough of it, and was just done with it. So the remake failed for me there. So one good point for the animals, one negative point for the drawing out the humans more. And then we have the tiebreaker, which is when it became Home Alone 3. That was the moment I turned on the remake, and I said, this is absolute garbage. You can't do that. You can't just add a Home Alone ripoff in the middle of this remake. And I hated it so much. I hated every second of it. I couldn't believe what they did to all these characters. Every character had such a good setup. And then you just turn it into this stupid spoof of this movie that came out years ago just because you wrote it. I mean, it was horrible. And I was just, I don't know, just pulling my hair out. I couldn't believe what they were doing. It didn't make sense in this movie. It didn't make sense in this universe. And like I said, you keep basing this thing in reality. You make it live action. You have the animals not talk, and then you flip it, and you have the most cartoony situation you can possibly have. It just took me out of the film. I was on the fence. I was like, okay, this isn't a great remake, but I still like it because the animals are really cool. And then you made Home Alone 3, and then I was like, okay, this is it. This is garbage. I hate this. It should not exist. So for me, it is a no. They should not have made the remake like this. And that last half hour just ruined everything. I had so much goodwill towards this because I like the animals so much, and it's an amazing feat. And it should be, I feel like it should be, honored or lauded or just praised what they did with these animals. But you ruined the movie at the end, and you took me out of it, and you changed my opinion. So, no, this is a bad remake. It should not exist.
So I guess we're not watching 102 Dalmatians.
Don't get me that for my birthday.
Something tells me by that point they probably got way heavier in the CGI too. Yeah, it's one of those remakes where maybe sign of the times, that maybe that particular style of film was just too easy to slap on pretty much any property or franchise. Because like we mentioned things like Mousetrap, you mentioned like Home Alone, and the fact that series had so much success. it was like, all right, we took a film that was doing its own thing and then tried to make it like those films, but the way they'd set it up it just didn't make sense to go that cartoonish. I still fall in that camp of because the animal work, I'll allow it because there's enough good things happening early that by the end I fade out as well. But they had still built up enough goodwill with me to for me to think that it should exist. But I think that we can all share our hatred of Jeff Daniels, Roger. And towards the end, I mean, I even forget, like, I guess he sold his video game. I don't even know. Who cares?
I mean, it's just, by doing what they did, by making it Home Alone, they made it a completely different movie. I didn't realize that's the movie I was watching. So I felt like I just got, like, this sense of betrayal. Like, the whole time I thought I was watching a certain type of movie here with this heavy-handed subject about, you know, kidnapping dogs, you know, skinning them, you know, some serious shit we're talking about here. And then you just make it this slapstick comedy. And, especially since you have such good source material, which didn't do that. You don't have to add that garbage to tell this story. You can go deeper than the original did. And they had such a good setup. All the characters were set up so well. And I just can't believe the direction they actually went. I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. My mind is baffled, man. They dropped the ball so bad. Usually the inclusion of something negative doesn't just ruin an experience for me, but the inclusion of this just completely ruined it. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think you're right. Like this setup, because when I was first watching it, I was like, does the Devil Wears Prada just like rip 101 Dalmatians?
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, it's like, holy shit. Like, and you're right. You're expecting like a kind of, you know, I mean, it's still for children, but like a kind of serious film. And you're right. It devolves. There's no question about that. I can't defend that side of the film. This is one of those rare times, or maybe not so rare, who knows, where we slightly diverge. You're bringing me closer to your side, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I think they do enough in it. Honestly, for kids, it probably just kind of worked, you know?
It kind of worked. They can watch the original, though. I think the kids will get a lot more out of the original.
Yeah, no, if I had to choose, I would always watch the original over it. I just like what they did with that film. I've seen it more. In the Glenn Close performance, there's elements of it that I really like. But yeah, towards the end, the movie does get rough to watch. It does.
It does. I mean, like I said, I love the animals part, and I was trying to ride that goodwill out, but I couldn't. It got that bad for me.
Wait, that's okay.
If they did a remake of this, they'd probably do like a CGI one, like Pixar totally or something. Can I just say, I also missed the traditional hand-drawn animation because it was awesome. Beautiful. The original, it just looked so gorgeous. Beautifully
done. And you know, because it's that old style, I like what they do with the backgrounds, where it actually, in a weird way, it does feel kind of like improv-y, like jazzy to an extent. Like they certain things aren't always like within the lines when it comes to, like the color palette and stuff like that. And I think it was a nice backdrop to those beautiful hand-drawn animations of the main characters, you know, those dogs and Roger and Anita. I just love the character design.
Yeah. Well said.
Yep.
All right. Well, do you have anything else?
101 out of 10 pups. I don't know. I think the original to me is just such a great film. The remake, okay, you know, it happened. Love what they did with the animals, and I think we've said that enough. I'm glad that we watched it, but yeah, there's some rough patches.
Yeah, I'm glad we watched it too. It's the first live action adaptation of Disney animation. It's the very first one, and today there's one coming out every month. So yeah, it's kind of good to see where they started, I suppose.
Yeah, this timing is actually interesting because this is the same week that The Lion King is coming out.
Yeah.
In theaters. So there's this set the precedent.
And Lion King not getting that many good reviews. So should they keep doing this? Well, I guess if they keep making money. Yeah, I know, right? It comes down if they keep making money. The remake made a lot of money. So
yeah, man.
That's why there was 102 Dalmatians.
There's 102 Dalmatians. They they rebooted. Disney had like a television series with 101 Dalmatians after this. Like they really started milking this franchise, and I'm sure that this set it all off. So although we may not have loved it, enough people did that it sort of relaunched the franchise.
Yeah, well, that's what Disney do. They milk a property for all it's worth, man.
Yep. And acquire other properties to continue to milk.
Oh yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to they ruin my X-Men.
Well, cool, man. I guess should we pick a film for next time?
Oh, true. Yeah. What should we do? Any thoughts on that?
Let's see, we went pretty whimsical here. Then we have something a little bit darker on the list. Wasn't there some horror stuff that we can kind of get into?
You want to start a horror one? We can do a horror one.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we haven't done one yet.
I think that'd be interesting. What do we have? Amityville, or was it something else?
Yeah, we could do that one. Isn't Ryan Reynolds in the remake?
Is he?
Deadpool. So
okay.
You're probably wondering why I'm trying to kill my family with an axe.
Yeah, I'm typically not really big on horror films. I'm kind of a softie, but yeah, we'll see. I'm interested in doing a comparison.
Okay, so we had different opinions about 101 Dalmatians. What did you guys think? Who do you side more with? Do you side with Reggie that it should exist, or do you side with me that maybe they just should have passed on this? So let us know, and one of us will eat our hats.
Oh man, do you have a hat you can eat? Can't wait. Maybe like a puppy skin hat. I'm interested to see where the listeners or the fans, as they are on this, and whose team they're on.
Yeah, it's a big good one. Because I'm sure a lot of people have nostalgia for this. Because they probably a lot of them probably saw it as kids. I did not see this until I was an adult. So
that could be a factor here. Yeah. So we'd be interested to hear what you have to say. If there's anything that we missed, definitely let us know. And our next episode is going to be the Amityville Horror. Thanks for joining us for another episode of
Retro versus Remake.
I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Thanks for listening.
Catch those puppies.
Oh, God.
I'm Reggie Parker. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at RPComedy, or you check out my website, rpcomedy.com.
I'm Dan Bulick. You could find me on Twitter at Console Wars Guys, Facebook, Console Wars Guys, or pretty sure there's an Instagram for Console Wars Guys, too. And also check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Console Wars. Well, thanks for listening. Have a good one.
Later.